Hi, beautiful people. I know like a past few videos I talked a lot about the value of men or whatever, and I wanted to talk about how us as women can hold each other accountable for the value and misvalue of women, because a lot of times people are afraid to speak out against the norm. And if the norm right now is to man bash and not uplift men, then majority of women are not going to go against the grain, right? So here are some things I think we can do to hold each other accountable and protect and uplift the good men so that there's balance again. Call out your friends or whoever's toxic behavior. If they're just making general statements about men or attacking men, verbally, physically, not to be combative, right? But gently call out that person's behavior, like, hey, that's not the case. I see it all the time on posts on Instagram, and I always comment, not mine. Like, just very subtly, not the men I know. I'm sorry that you're around those type of people, but it's not all men. So people want to argue on the internet and be like, but it's always a man, and it's like, whatever, I'm not about to argue with you. Anyways, encourage self-reflection. Sometimes we get into these habits and we don't realize that we're doing it, right? So just after you like call them out and toxic, if they're doing it and you can tell that it's like, hey, I know you're not meaning to, maybe this is just like a pattern that you're used to doing, like, I don't know, the girl that's always complaining about her child's father or her dad or whatever, call them out and encourage that they self-reflect, like have some awareness, ask questions like, well, maybe they're acting a certain way because they're being treated a certain way. You know what I mean? Like, especially if they're in a relationship. Like, I don't know the dynamics of my parents' relationship all the way, right? You only know what you see, you don't know much else. But I feel they would have broken their cycle and like really just talked with one another and try to make a change internally, that externally there wouldn't be complaining about one another or problems like there was. So just try to tell them to reflect on themselves and reflect however they're treating a person, but specifically men in this case, if that's how they would really want to be treated genuinely deep down inside. Answer's probably going to be no. When we call them out, they tend to feel guilty. Some will get, combative, but some will be open to change, and that's what we're hoping for, really. Promote healthy relationship standards. Don't Dr. Phil this stuff, you know what I mean? But give them examples. Maybe they're used to watching like these reality shows or whatever, but help give them examples of healthy, happy relationships where the women respect their man or whatever. Offer a book that might lead them to breaking their toxic patterns and behaviors. And you yourself, like, as a person, just try your best to set that example. Even if you're not in a relationship, like, be kind and respectful, and even toward other people that's not just men. But don't miss the opportunity to be kind and gentle and feminine, and show that in order to allow masculinity to happen, we have to be feminine. Don't enable them to do poor treatment and judgment. Like, don't try to justify your friend's actions because it's your friend. That whole they should have known better type deal. People aren't mind readers. Like, don't enable that. I now, like, when people start complaining, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I don't really feed in. We're killing it right there, because I'm not going to encourage you to bash somebody or talk negative around me. That's a boundary that I've set. So I don't know, don't allow them to continue that poor judge or treatment around you, or that poor behavior around you. I'm not saying you have to go around and just talk about men all the time, but highlight the values of good men. You know what I mean? Like, some people are gonna find this annoying. Like, I noticed I lost a lot of connections with females around me, but that's okay. If you just remind women, like, hey, after you say, like, not all good men or whatever, don't talk about it like this, but like, show them the contributions and tell them, like, hey, this is what men bring to our world, our society. It's not all this negativity that has been pushed. Like, we're only seeing negative sides of men because that's what we're pushing, is negativity on men. So if you like start pushing and highlight the values of good men, like, I can see now, like, that hardworking man, the man that's out with his kids and his wife, like, how he's protecting them, and in like Papa Bear mode, and just genuine people, right, who are just trying to love and be loved, doing things that are aligned with God's plan and will. So like, highlight that. I don't know, you might lose a friend, but was it your friend if they're not in alignment with what you want to do? Always lead by example. Always, always, always. If you have a relationship right now that's, you know, romantic, don't cave into that complaining about your boyfriend or whatever, because of course there's going to be problems that you have, right? But try to keep that between y'all, because you open up the door of like a problem and they're just going to see that person as a negative person all the time, regardless. Never see them as that positive person that you get to be, because most of the time we talk about the negative, we never talk about the positive, especially if like a problem arises. So they're going to just always see the person as a problem. So just always, you know, be respectful, talk respectful about your man or the men in your life, whether it's father. Kind of redundant, but just support growth instead of tearing down men. So in conversations, like, just hold each other accountable, right? So what is it that you're doing or could be doing that allows this person to feel this way or mistreat you? Go talk to your man, have that conversation with your man about how you're feeling. Things of that nature. Like, have them grow as a person. Don't just sit there because it's easy and convenient to tear them down another person. In this example, men, is really just about us holding each other to a standard of respecting not only ourselves but the men in our lives. I could say that for a long time, like, I wouldn't say disrespecting my dad, right, but I didn't understand the reason behind everything that happened in our lives. But now, and I say this time and time again, I do understand, like, it created a person that needed to happen to be here in this moment. And had anything gone any other way, I would not have been me. And I think just genuinely being able to understand that we're all people going through problems and situations. So now, not saying it's a child's responsibility to be that parent's advocate or whatever, but now I can understand that deep down inside he was a good man, is a good man, but he's facing his own demons. But there's no need to tear him down as a human, right? There's no need to bash him or anything of that nature. You did what you could do to call out any behavior that might need to be changed, and you grow with that person. And if they're not willing to grow, then that's okay, you know what I mean? But there's no need to tear them down, because at the end of the day, he's a good person just trying. And I think that's like a good example of like where I could sit here and bash my dad and air out all the dirty laundry. Like, I will refuse. As far as romantic relationships, you'll never hear me disrespect my man. There's not an ounce of me that I just won't. There's nothing that he does. Everything, if anything, a problem arises, a lot of times it's something I can check myself on, hold myself accountable. Why is this bringing this type of emotion out of me? What can I do and learn from this? And if it's something that it's like, hey, this behavior makes me feel some type of way, bring it up to them and talk to them about it, him about it. But us just sitting around gossiping, talking about men, not doing anything productive to help the growth of men, like, especially if you got sons and they're just sitting there hearing you talk stuff about men, and it's like they're gonna grow up to be a man one day. So do you think that about them as well? I don't know, it's deep. But I'm about to go back to my man and my baby boy and have breakfast and just enjoy the day. Just something to think about. Hold your girlfriends accountable, hold yourself accountable, check, your behavior if you're just bashing somebody or talking just because you're going with the flow of things. But that's all I have. Peace.